Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. So today's video is going to be geared toward the 243 Winchester. And if you'll recall, we've already gone down the path of working up a load for a different rifle. It's a handy rifle, New England Firearms handy rifle. And that one we settled on the 75 grain VMAX from Hornady. Go back, watch those videos. But I want to tie that into the results that I got from the other day with my personal rifle. It's a Thompson Center Compass utility, because I found it interesting. I found some of the results to be interesting between the two. So I was using in that for the handy rifle, the loads that I worked up, I settled on using Hodgdon Superformance. And I believe the load that I ended up with was 48.2 grains. I'm trying to recall from memory, but it was either 48 or 48.2. Those two different charge weights during our testing gave us the best 3-shot group, out of any of the charge weights that we tried. 48 and 48.2 back to back gave us, this one was just over an inch. The 48.2, I believe it was just under an inch. So we ended up settling in that range, and that was what we loaded up. That was with a 75 grain VMAX. So, transition over to the Thompson Center Compass utility, and I had some Norma brass, this stuff right here. And so to fire form it, I used the Spear 100 grain Grand Slam bullets and used two different powders, Accurate 2700 and IMR 4451. You've seen this before. These are some of the results. We just didn't really like the bullet powder combinations for that rifle. Just didn't really care for them too much. We could probably find some stuff that shoots halfway decent if we put some more effort into it. But I wanted to move on to something else. And so that something else was transitioning over to Barnes 80 grain tip TSX, and then also the Nosler 90 grain ballistic tip. And I loaded up I used two different powders for both of these bullets, or one powder for each, two different powders. So it was IMR 4451. I wanted to give it another chance with a lighter weight bullet to see what kind of performance we could get out of it. And then I wanted to try the Hodgdon Superformance just because I had, pretty good luck with it, and the 75 grain VMAX. And so you've seen these results in a previous video, but you can kind of see here. We started off, we were jumping, 0.3 of a grain in our measurements here with the 80 grain Barnes and the Hodgdon Superformance. And so results for a 3-shot group, nothing really to write home about. That third one's actually right there. And then I was shooting some velocity stuff for the 6.5 PRC, kind of got in the way. But then when we hit 48 grains, that was our best group by far, right? And that's one of those where when you string it together with the rest of these results, you're like, did I just get lucky on that, right? So we'll come back to that later. And then the IMR 4451, the 90 grain Nosler ballistic tip, nothing terrible. It's all it's all less than 1.5 inches. The worst one was 1.37, but it put two right next to each other and then dropped one. And I had that back to back. So, this is one of those areas where do you explore this range with the 90 grain and then play with overall length to try to tighten that up? Because it looks like you're putting two almost in the same hole and then you're throwing one. Would overall length tighten that up? I don't know. But then it looks like it kind of spreads out a little bit, and then it looks like it's wanting to go, the higher you go, it's wanting to get back into that, put two close and then throw one. So I might work up higher with the 90 grain and the IMR 4451. I might actually load higher and see what we can get out of that. But the focus really is down here on this 80 grain Barnes. I'm wanting to load up a hunting load to finish out the season. I'm probably going to try to take off work a couple more days. The hunt season goes through February 10th. And so I really want to get at least one more in the freezer, but I'd like to try this 80 grain Barnes on it. And I just found it interesting that, that 48 grain charge with an 80 grain bullet, if you'll remember, I mean, that's what we had good luck with in the 75 in a different rifle. So, this was the best by far, and I wanted to, there we go. And I wanted to come back and test that again. So what I did this time was I loaded up 5 3-shot groups, and I tested different overall lengths. This is at 2.610 inch overall length. That's what all of these were shot at here. These are different, but these are 2.61. So came back, loaded up 48 grains for all 15 loads, and then just varied the overall lengths. And we were jumping 30 thousandths, so 2.610 was our lowest, that was our shortest that we ran, and then we went up from there. So we went, 2.64, 2.67, 2.7, 2.73, you get the idea. So what does that look like? Well, that target looks like this. So this is the 48 grain charge, and this was our 2.61 inch overall length. So as you can see, this was our smallest 3-shot group out of the ones we tested when we varied the charge weights, and then we circled back and wanted to explore that more, and we followed it up. That's just pure luck. That's the smallest 3-shot group I've ever shot, and that, in my opinion, it's more on the luck side. I don't shoot that well, just bottom line. Plus my equipment doesn't shoot that well. So, I would think it's probably going to be more so closer to this. If it followed up with another 1/2-inch 3-shot group, I'd be tickled to death. That's perfectly fine for what I need. An 1.5-inch group is perfectly fine for what I'm going to be doing with this rifle. So I thought that was really cool to follow that performance up. It was the best that we had in the first round, the charge weight testing, and then to follow it up and the overall length testing, and it was the best one that we had. I thought that was pretty neat. Now, the difference between this row and this row is I used a different bullet seating die. On this row, I used a Lee bullet seating die, and this row down here, I used a Hornady. By the time I got around to loading these, I had bought a Hornady custom grade die set, and that way I could use the little micrometer adjustment on top. I've got one of those, so it just makes it so much easier to seat bullets, and especially if you're going to be doing this type of testing where you're varying your overall lengths, it just makes it so much easier to be able to dial it in and make it repeatable. And so I went ahead and I used that bullet seating die. I still use the Lee full length sizing die whenever I sized all these at the same time, and so that part didn't change. It was just some that I hadn't loaded yet that I used for this testing, and I've got 5 left that I'm going to load up for hunting ammo. But I think I'm going to go with this load. I'm pretty sure we're going to be okay at the 48 grain charge and 2.610 overall length. We're going to call it done with that. I'm going to make a slight scope adjustment, not much at all. Probably go up, a couple clicks, left a couple clicks, and then just call it done, right? And that's going to be our hunting load for this one. But I just thought it was very interesting that 48 grains is looking pretty decent as far as a charge weight with an 80 grain bullet, and that was what we had our best luck with in the 75 grain bullet in a different rifle. So basically taking the long way to get to this statement, it's not 100% obviously, but if you have a 243 Winchester and you're going to be shooting in that 75 to 80 grain bullet range, you may want to pick up a pound of Hodgdon Superformance and just give it a shot, right? Around that 48 grain charge weight seems to be, pretty good results, at least in the 2 rifles that I've tried now, and those 2 different bullet weights, obviously they're very similar, 75 and 80, pretty close. weight-wise, not length-wise. Length-wise, there's a decent amount of difference, but bullet weight overall, you know, and we've gotten some pretty good results. So that's kind of really where I want to leave that. We went longer. We had some horizontal stuff here, and then all of a sudden go a little bit longer, and now we got a little bit of vertical. This actually put two in the same hole, and then you had your third one. So this one is another area, that 2.67 up to 2.7. You know, that might be something if you wanted to load a little bit longer. Maybe look at that area. But again, 48 was our best at 2.61 previously on the charge weight testing. And then we come down here and we follow it up with just the best group I've ever shot, 3-shot group I've ever shot, which is just luck. But still, that gives me confidence in this load that, I mean, even if it was blown out to a half inch, again, I just need to pull the trigger one time, right, and get the job done. So I think we're going to call that done with our Barnes 80 grain tip TSX. I don't have a lot of these on hand, and so that's going to be a hunt and load. We just load those up. However many I have left, that'll probably be my plan, is to just, however many I have, go and resize the brass and come back and just load up however many I have left and put that off to the side and say those are just dedicated hunting loads. We're not fooling with this anymore. Done with the 80 grain. Now we're going to move on to the 90 grain. And so I'm going to load up some 90 grain using IMR 4451, and I'm also going to use Hodgdon Superformance to see how that does in the 90 grain. So that's it. That's our 243 Winchester update. I'm looking forward to loading these up and hitting the woods with them real soon. I'd like to see how they perform on deer. But that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. If you have a 243 Winchester and you're going to be using this bullet, or, you know, the 75 grain, you know, give Hodgdon Superformance a try. I've had really good luck with it in 270 Winchester also, and 6.5 Creedmoor. So I haven't messed with it a whole lot in the Creedmoor. What little bit I have, though, I've had decent luck with it. And then 270 Winchester, I had really good results with a Barnes. I believe it was a 129 grain LRX in the Barnes and in 270 Winchester, and it shot really well with Superformance. So that's it. That's all. I'm gonna get to resizing the brass and loading up the remainder of the Barnes that I have left. So we'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.